Hello, welcome to the Soul Indulgence Show. I'm Lauren, and I want to talk to you today about soul indulgence, but I also want to talk to you about pleasure. In fact, I want to talk to you about the subtle art of pleasure. So if you're watching, throw me an emoji that lets me know how you feel about pleasure. And this can be you're watching live or watching in the replay. I want to know what your initial thoughts are about pleasure. So I have a story for you from when I was a kid, and it has to do with my mom. So she used to drink a lot of Diet Coke, like a lot. And sometimes my brother and I would get her to laugh, and she would kind of snort, and the Diet Coke would come from her mouth up out, and it would shoot out her nose. She would start to snort, and then like the process would get activated, and it would just shoot out of her nose. Now I know now that that must have been really painful. All of that like effervescency, all of that, you know, whatever Diet Coke is made out of, up in your nasal cavity. But it was like once she started, we would get so excited that we would start laughing and be like, oh, is it gonna come out her nose? And we would be so excited and like cheering her on. And then I think that would make it worse. And then it would happen and it took a while to recover. And these were some of my brother and I's favorite times. And I always thought that it just had to do with, something coming out of my mom's nose. Like, that's pretty exciting. But when I think back on it now, I think it also had to do with her just being in a place of pleasure, like her experiencing joy. She was happy. And I know now from studying pleasure and from really understanding it that it doesn't happen unless we're able to release. Right? Unless we're in a relaxed state, we're not able to receive or experience pleasure. We're too tense, we're too tight. And that has become so widespread in our world that women are just, they're holding so much, they're so tight, they're so tense, and that getting to that place where we can actually relax or we can actually experience pleasure. And now this is true in the bedroom as much as it's true in the rest of the world, right? The rest of our lives. But this sense that pleasure, it doesn't come easily unless we really know how to relax and receive it. Now, I want to also draw attention to how we've been thinking and talking about pleasure in our society. And one of those ways is that we've been thinking about pleasure as the dessert to life. Like, if I get all my things done, then I deserve pleasure, right? And we even have this awful expression like guilty pleasure, right? Like, which is embedded in there, the word guilt, right? Like we don't innately deserve it. Like we have to earn it. Like there's some metric, like some formula. If we do enough of this, then we can get to the pleasure part, right? And I just think that that is fraudulent, right? Like that's a lie that we've been spinning, that we've been telling women for years, decades, right? And I started this talking about my mom, and she inherited all of those messages, right? About that we aren't innately worthy, that we have to do all these things in order to be worthy, in order to earn, And like even that sense, God, I knew as a kid, family gatherings, all the women would be in the kitchen working and all the men would be watching TV. They'd be relaxing, they'd be having fun. And I remember feeling like, am I gonna go be in the kitchen and work? Like, I'm gonna go relax, And I shared this with my dad recently, and he was like, oh, I always just thought you liked football, And I was like, honestly, I just wanted to be able to relax and have fun and be in that um that calm, like released place, right? And so I want to ask you today to think about how pleasure impacts your life, right? So we have all of this societal messaging that tells us that we have to earn our pleasure and maybe we're guilty for experiencing it, or, it's not something that we innately deserve, right? But I also want to ask you, when you do experience pleasure, and this can be like an unexpected pleasure that comes up, right? I shared a post recently that has brought me so much pleasure, asking about people's pleasures, and they got so much engagement, and everyone's responding to each other, and it felt like such sweet community, which we need in these times as much as we've ever needed it. And so it can be unexpected pleasure like that, like a little thing, or it can be an intentional pleasure. Like it can be a planned spa day and a massage and a facial, or like a super intimate night with your partner, whatever it is. Like after you've really allowed yourself to experience pleasure, how do you show up? Now, I know for some of you listening to this, you're going to go, I don't know if I've ever really allowed myself to experience pleasure. And that is the point. Like, we are not trained to do this. And yet, it is essential, right? Because once we do experience pleasure, then we're able to show up as our true selves. Then we're able to give more fully of our love and our attention, our presence. We're able to actually be the mother and the wife and the daughter and the sister and the worker, the leader. We're able to be the person that we know that we are because we have done the thing that brings us joy. I also just want to reiterate that what brings you joy isn't what brings everybody joy. So it's not like all humans all want the exact same thing and we're all, in a sense, like competing for, a limited amount of pleasure, right? That's not it. Like what brings one person pleasure is different than what brings another person pleasure, then different than what brings another person pleasure. And so you following your unique calling toward pleasure is what actually makes the world a richer place. Right? And if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, then I know that you are someone who has a calling on your soul. You know that you are meant to do something bigger. You are meant to shine. And I just want you to think about this here, right? That we've been thinking about pleasure as like the dessert, right? This thing that we have to earn. But really, pleasure is the fuel. Pleasure is the green smoothie that energizes us. It's not this like afterthought, like I'm going to do all of this stuff, all this meat and potato stuff, and then I'm going to get a little pleasure, right? No, it's actually that we need to seek our pleasure first and foremost if we are going to show up as the women and leaders and mothers and wives and daughters and children and whatever that we know that we're meant to be. Now, soul indulgence is the path to bringing your full pleasure and purpose and power to life. And that is like one of the foundational blocks, and I'll even say right now, like the most foundational block is the pleasure. And it's only through learning to access our pleasure that we're able to believe that we're worthy. And I'll tell you, in my last decade of working with women, that is the fundamental, core, flawed belief that we've inherited, that we are not worthy as we are. And if we do not believe we're worthy as we are not going to seek pleasure because we think that we have to earn it. And we're going to continue to spin our wheels trying to earn it. And guess what? We're never going to get there. And I'm not trying to be a downer here. I'm trying to save you from the havoc that seeking and churning and trying to produce in order to get to this artificial place where you think you're suddenly going to be worthy. It's not gonna happen. Society and the people that love you very dearly have done the best that they can to get you where you are. But you need more support to actually get you to the place where you can own your worthiness and you can seek pleasure because you know that's what you're meant to do. Like we wouldn't have these systems of pleasure seeking and desire if we weren't meant to seek them. It is only through accessing this pleasure and accessing these desires on our souls and actually getting to this place of soul indulgence that we're able to express the full radiance of our being. And once we do that, once we can express the full radiance of our being, then we attract people and desires and things and needs. We attract that to us because we are worthy. This is the way that we cultivate change, right? By individually choosing to prioritize ourselves, choosing to invest in our souls and the things that we long for. This is how we cultivate change. This is how we access our power to shine and lead. This is the fundamental piece of it. So if you're watching today, I want to hear. Tell me now, what do you think about pleasure? Right? What is it that you're dying for, that you're longing for, that your heart is aching for? Because I'm going to tell you that what that is, that's what's right with you. So much as society tries to tell you that you're wrong, tries to tell you that your desires are wrong, and that's not true. What you want is what's right. That's what you long for, the thing that will light you up, the thing that will allow you to access the full radiance of your being. And I want that for you because I know how good it's been for me. And I know that when I help others lead their lives the way that they are and show up in their radiance, that fills my cup. So I want it for me because I want it for you because it impacts me and it fills my cup. And then we end up with this world with all these women who are just like radiant beings. Like, I'm sorry, that's what I want. So how can you allow yourself to move more into the radiance of your being? Tell me. Okay, bye now.